Yeah. Well, hi everyone. Thank you so much for jumping on tonight. My name is Christine Kerner. I am the recently appointed Director of Computer Science as well as the Director of Secondary Mathematics for the State Department of Education. And Terry and I have been talking pretty much for a month and a half, 2 months about, and we have really been talking about the direction that we could go with computer science in Oklahoma. We have a really unique opportunity to hit the ground running with our new standards. And so to start with that, we're looking at RCS Education Week. And so Dr. Cullen is our host tonight, and she is an associate professor in the Instructional Psychology and Technology program at the University of Oklahoma. There, she coordinates undergraduate and graduate technology integration programs, working with students to identify ways to incorporate purposeful technology and computer science standards into their future classroom curriculum. She is currently on the Oklahoma State Department of Education Technology Advisory Board and served on the OSDE Computer Science Standards Committee as part of the review board. In addition to her PhD in Instructional Systems Technology and master's degrees in Instructional Systems Technology and School Computer Studies, Dr. Cullen is an Apple Distinguished Educator and a Jane and John Kennedy Education Faculty Fellow, which recognizes excellence in STEM teaching. Terry, you are a fantastic advocate for equity in the field of computer science, and you continuously help pre-service and veteran teachers comfortably incorporate computer science into their classrooms. I know tonight is going to be no exception to that. Thank you so much for being here and willing to host this session, and we're excited to hear from you the 5 ways to bring CSED Week into your classroom.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm glad we're videotaping this because that's probably the best intro that I've ever gotten. And so I am very much digging that. And so what we're going to start with is I made a Google Slides presentation. And so I'm going to go to a screen share. And I am grabbing here Google Chrome. So are you seeing Google Chrome right now? Yes? Oh no.
Yes, no I see Chrome. Yeah. You're good.
You see Chrome. Good. I'm going to hit present. Make sure that we're working. Are you guys seeing? Oh, here we go. It's taking a minute. A little bit slow. Are you seeing now?
Yep.
Okay, good. And so what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to turn on closed captioning too. We were just talking about how that might be fun, although I'm going to see every time that I say And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some quick ways in order to participate in CS Ed Week in your classroom. And I want to give you just a little background. So, because Computer Science Education Week is next week for all of the world. Everyone is ramping up to talk about computer science education. And why is that so important in Oklahoma right now? Well, in April of 2018, the state of Oklahoma passed computer science education standards as part of our curriculum. And so there are computer science standards for all grade levels, from grades K through 2, 3 through 5, 6 through 8, and then for high school level. And if you go to this link, before I forget, these slides, if you want to click along with the slides, if you want to check out a website or whatever, these slides are available at drterryc.com. It's the most recent post there. And so you can just find it really easy that way. Each of these standards at each of these grade levels are sequenced. So if you have a science background, this will remind you of kind of some of the next generation science standards and their scope and sequence. And so what happens is that grades like K2, the activities are a little bit less complex, but deal with the basic concepts of computer science. And then at grades 3 through 5, then they become a little bit more complicated as we move up to high school. So one of the things that is kind of a misunderstanding about computer science standards is a lot of people think that computer science in education is all about coding. And that isn't true. Computer science is actually very much about all those other things involved with living a technology-rich life. It's about ethics, it's about security, It's about equity and using technology in order to help to improve our world and our environment, and also help to make sure that others have access to information and the ability to use technology to make their lives better. And so through with such a broad idea of what a technology filled life is, the computer science standards in Oklahoma are are poised to let you incorporate talking about computers, how we use computers, how they affect our lives throughout your entire curriculum. So what I wanted to do to get you ready for Computer Science Education Week, which is next week, is that I wanted to give you 5 activities, because maybe you've heard about the computer science standards, maybe you've even heard about Computer Science Education Week, and you might be thinking, my goodness, nobody prepared me to teach computer science when I was in school. I got a degree in elementary education. I got a degree in biology or English language arts, social studies. Like, computer science wasn't part of this. I don't think this relates to me. But when we really think about the future of our state, what we have to really think about is that computer science is so important when we think about that college and career readiness. A lot of the core skills of computer science, like ways of thinking and solving problems, are very much applicable to all these other subject areas. And so what I really want us to be thinking about is that our role as educators is to give students opportunities to be thinking about the possible careers and giving them exposure so they can say, oh, that's something I'm interested in, or that's something I'm very not interested in. And so at all grade levels, from kindergarten all the way up through 12th grade, there are going to be opportunities for you to integrate the idea of computer science in your own curriculum. And Computer Science Education Week is a great week to do it because a lot of people are celebrating. You get involved in kind of the excitement about thinking about it. There's lots of resources that are provided to you from large companies like Apple, Google, and Microsoft. And those resources are things that you can make as a nice break for your class during next week, Computer Science Ed Week. And then from there, you can make them a regular part of your curriculum. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to present 5 ideas that you could easily incorporate and have your students talking about computer science next week, and then be part of the celebration. And hopefully you'll see that these ideas are so easy or so accessible to you that maybe it's something that even you can do it next week, but maybe think of including it and other related ideas in your curriculum throughout the year. All right, so let me talk about my first idea. There are lots of free curricula about teaching computer science. And so one of the really well-known ones is code.org. And code.org is a consortium of large companies have helped to support this, where they have lesson plans and videos for teachers to help them learn about teaching computer science. So I have a link right here to their unplugged curriculum. And I picked one activity here. It's called My Robot Friends. And in order to get students to understand what it's like to think like a computer, they have to write commands or algorithms for their friends to have them do a task, which is piling cups. And when you go to this website, you'll see that there'll be a list of different activities that can be done. There'll be a lesson plan. There'll be a video specifically for the teacher. And then there will be a link to a video that you could show your students what they're doing. And then finally, there's a teacher prep guide that you can print out. So if you're feeling uncomfortable about teaching about computer science, this is a completely paper activity that has our students think about the idea about following an algorithm or following a set of step-by-step instructions. If you were looking at the computer science standards right now, and you looked at the first grade computer science standards, one of them is, with guidance, model daily processes and follow algorithms, sets of step-by-step instructions to complete tasks verbally, kinesthetically, with a robot device or a programming language. So for first grade, this paper activity would meet this computer science standard. And by having your students do this, you could participate in Computer Science Ed Week. In addition, this standard about following an algorithm, a set of step-by-step instructions, is one of the main ideas that are throughout all of the standards. And so if you looked at them at each grade level, you would find something similar, but each grade level, it increases a little bit in complexity. So let me show you a second example. Solve a problem using technology. Technology can help us to address problems around the world, and it does not require having devices in your classroom to talk about how technology impacts our lives or could help solve problems. The way that you could incorporate this in your lessons is to challenge your students to work in teams to identify problems that could be solved with technology and create a pitch on how the problem could be solved and how technology could benefit society. If we look at the computer science standards, I just grabbed a few that this activity would meet. In third grade, it would help them identify possible problems and how they could use computing devices to increase accessibility to all users. In fifth grade, they could use an iterative process to plan the development of a program that includes others' perspectives. And at eighth grade, they can seek and incorporate feedback from team members to refine a solution to a problem that meets the needs of diverse users. So I want to stop right now and engage our audience, and let's think about this. What content areas, because a lot of schools don't have time to teach only about computer science, is there a content area where we could challenge our students to work in teams to identify problems that could be solved with technology and create a pitch on how the problem could be solved and how that technology could benefit society? Would anybody like to jump in and give a suggestion of a content area where that would be appropriate? Anyone? Bueller?
I'll jump in
Okay.
if nobody else is jumping in. When I taught language arts, I used design thinking a lot, and the design thinking process is very much about solving problems, incorporating technology, incorporating other aspects. And so we took a look at problems with um, where we had homelessness or where we had higher populations than could sustain the resources, different areas like that. And we did take a look at what technology could fix the problem. We made prototypes of it. We pitched the idea, did different little mini, kind of like webinars, but before webinars were cool, and worked on those situations to really try to solve the problem. And it was very engaging, very interesting to students, and they felt like they were actually making a difference.
That's awesome. Thank you very much, Christine. Does anybody have another content area where this would be relevant? Well, I'm going to throw out there, I think this would also be relevant in social studies. Often I hear from people who are engaged with social studies that computer science doesn't always have a lot to do with social studies. However, when we think about the laws and things that we will be passing that require us to have knowledge of computer science and how technology is affecting our lives, there are many news stories that would be relevant, and we could really include this in our repertoire of ways in which we could incorporate computer science in the regular classroom. Let me grab for another example here. So our third example is to educate others about data security. So today, data security is a huge issue. From governments to grannies on Facebook, everyone's data is at risk. Engage your students in a campaign to create posters about the way to protect themselves online. And these could be done digitally or with markers and poster paper. The lesson could fit into language arts, social studies, or a communication class. And if we look at the standards examples that I gave you, from eighth grade, it's about communicate and publish key ideas individually or collaboratively in a way that informs, persuades, or entertains using a variety of digital tools and media-rich resources, and also using safe and appropriate sharing practices. And then I have two high school standards, which are illustrate how sensitive data can be affected by attacks and explain trade-offs when selecting and implementing cybersecurity recommendations from multiple perspectives, such as the user, business, and government. So as you can see, there's many grade levels where our computer science standards would be relevant, and would fit in. And if we did a unit on, maybe hacking in the election, that would be really appropriate for a high school social studies class, but we could also focus them on the data security part of the issue and be addressing some potential careers. Data security is a very hot career right now, especially in our state. And so if you had students who had an aptitude for technology and would be interested, that would be a great way to expose them to that as a potential career opportunity. Another one we could do is focus on digital citizenship. So digital citizenship is an appropriate online behavior or skill that is integral to our computer-rich society. So one of the standards that we could address is in 6th grade and 8th grade, we could have students create an online survey about how computers and technology work. We could have them practice appropriate behavior and represent the data in charts and graphs, and talk about how data can be represented and communicated. So if you want to know more about this, there's a website that a lot of schools are using, which is commonsense.org, which is Common Sense Media. And they have an entire training for teachers about digital citizenship. So combined with getting that training yourself and combining that with the computer science standards in Oklahoma, you could create an activity that drives home both proper behavior online as well as using data. I believe I'm at my 5th activity, and the 5th activity is just a huge opportunity because the Hour of Code is sponsored by large companies like Google, Microsoft, and Apple, and it's actually run by code.org, which is the organization that provides a lot of free computer science curriculum that you can use in your classroom. They have teachers in mind because what they do is they have ways for you to manage how your students are completing activities so that you can create a classroom and you can record what students have created. But they also have a lot of these fun 1-hour activities that are about computer science. And if you go to hourofcode.com/US and you click, you'll see that there is a search engine where you can say grade level. You can look for if they work on an iPad or an Android device, if you don't have any internet, and then you can pick your content area that you want to integrate into. And it will come up with a series of activities. Many of their activities are online games that you can play that focus on fundamental coding activities. For example, developing a short program that uses things like loops and repetition and conditional variables. This is a 7th grade standard, but you'll look throughout the computer science standards and you will see that there are computer science standards that are at each grade level that work with actually writing code. But one thing that I want to stress is one great way is to have the kids play with some of these games and get started in coding, but then also talking about the other things that come with computer science, like equity and access and data security are very important when we're talking about the impact of technology in our lives. So those were my 5 ideas. And if you go back through those ideas, again, the slides are available at drterryc.com. If you go back through those slides, you'll see that many of them don't even use technology. So if your school is not one-to-one or don't have Chromebooks or a card available, you can still be talking about the impact of technology in our lives and start to have our students start thinking about the computer science careers that are available to them. The other thing is I don't know about you, but sometimes when we have like computer science ed week, all of a sudden I think, man, I really wanted to work on that, but I don't have the skills and I don't feel comfortable. And I can take this as an opportunity to kind of say, here are some things that I could start to do to make myself as a teacher feel more ready and competent to do computer science with my students. So maybe I'm not ready quite yet to do an activity for Computer Science Ed Week, even though those are really things that could fit in really well in your curriculum. But instead, let me start to think about a couple of things I could do. So I have a couple of ideas. Increasing your technology network, exploring local robotics competitions, start to learn to code yourself, seek out and engage in professional development related to computer science, and then make a commitment. So I want to talk about each of those in a little bit of detail. The first is your technology network in Oklahoma has the potential to just grow like you wouldn't believe. Techlahoma is an organization that unites all the programming and technology organizations from across the state. And so if you go to the Techlahoma website, if you were thinking, maybe the way I really want to engage in computer science education is invite a computer science engineer, a computer science programmer, somebody who works in data security, and I want them to come and speak to my class. This organization would help you identify some local computer scientists who might be available for you to have come in as a guest speaker. And maybe it won't come together for next week, but starting the process now to make it part of your curriculum is a great thing that you can do. Another organization, Oklahoma Women in Technology, is one that I'm actually involved in. And as it sounds, it's for women in technology. When we talk about getting getting K-12 students to think about technology careers, one of the most important things that we can do is to present them with people who look like them. And having women come and speak to your class is a great way to encourage your girls to think about computer science careers. In addition, there's been a lot of research that has shown that if you want to get like middle schoolers excited about a career, the best thing to do is to bring in some 25-year-olds, because I could see myself at 25 having some money, having a nice car, getting some nice clothes, that sort of thing. But they don't always relate to somebody who's maybe 45 or 50. So some of these organizations can be great because you could say, I would like someone to come in that is, 25 years old who works in programming video games, and they can help you connect. Other regional technology groups, there's a list here that's from Free Code Camp OKC, which you could click on and then find them in your region. The reason I included this list is Techlahoma is statewide, as is Oklahoma Women in Technology, and then the other website will help you find some of the more regional organizations. Another thing that you could do is a lot of schools meet computer science standards by having their students participate in robotics competitions. And so I wanted to mention, one of the things that I find so inspiring is that there's computer and robotics competitions around the state. So for example, if you're near Tulsa, on December 5th, the Junior Bot-Ball Championship is happening in Tulsa, and I have a link here. And I've gone to many of those events as a volunteer, and I've just gone around and talked to teachers and students and gotten an idea about what difference computer science has made to them and helping them in their coursework. And if it's something that you're like, I'm not so sure about this, one of the best things that you could do is go to a bot-ball competition, or perhaps a FIRST robotics competition, which is the other kind of very popular robotics competition in our state, and think about, how does this fit in with what I'm doing in my classroom, and how could I get involved, and how would this help my students? There is nothing like seeing the students actively engaged to truly understand the impact of helping them to explore computer science as part of their curriculum. The other thing that you can do is start to learn to code. And so what I've done is given you a series of links. And remember, this PowerPoint, or sorry, this key, well, it's not a keynote, it's a Google slide. This Google slide, we're going to share it on the OK Comp Sci group on Facebook. Also will be shared with the video, but for now it's at drterryc.com, and you'll see, if you can follow all of these links, we have Free Code Camp, which is meets in Norman, Tulsa, Oklahoma City, and it's a online programming curriculum. So if you want to learn how to code, this could be something you could do in your free time, or you could do with a group of interested students. Some other ideas is Scratch, which is from MIT, has a Learn to Code with Scratch online class that you can take as a teacher. Apple offers, if you have Apple devices, specifically iPads is where it begins, they have the Everyone Can Code curriculum, so you can use what's called Swift Playground, which is a game-based curriculum on an iPad, and it moves you up learning how to use the programming language Swift up until when you can switch over to a Mac and then do programming in Xcode. Google offers the CS First curriculum, which you could work through as well, that has professional development for teachers. And then finally, code.org has some free online courses on learning how to code. And so these are just a few of your options. There's actually far more. One of the things that I find with many teachers is the idea of computer science education is overwhelming to them. they're often worried that they're going to make the wrong choice and they're going to learn how to code in the wrong language, or the one that they pick is not relevant. But the truth is that the fundamentals of computer science are the same no matter what language you're doing. When you decide to code, it doesn't matter if you're in Python or Java or JavaScript or Swift. In the end, learning basically the logic behind coding is transferable to all those different languages. So if you're really interested in learning about coding and you have an iPad, then choose the Apple one and go to their website, download the app, work through the tutorials, look at some of their videos, and what you'll be learning could be transferred into other languages if you decide to work in a different way with your students. It's all about building your competence and getting yourself experience so that you feel comfortable teaching your students about computer science. Another thing that you can do is increase your knowledge about teaching computer science. I have a couple of ideas here. The Tulsa STEM Alliance, I didn't see any on their current calendar, but they regularly have workshops on things like data security, and they've had those in the past, so you can watch that. You can also take local workshops offered through code.org. In Oklahoma, our provider is the OPSRC, which is the Oklahoma Public School Resource Center. And I know many schools in Oklahoma are part of that network. But if you click on this website, you can click and type in your zip code, and it will tell you where there are classes nearby. They offer classes for all the way from K to 12. And so there's lots of opportunities for you to go to a workshop with other teachers and learn about teaching computer science. Additionally, I'll just give a quick plug for the class that I'm trying to offer. I'm trying to offer an online class this spring. We're having 2 meetings at the University of Oklahoma on K-12 computer science pedagogy. If you would like more information on that, you could either tweet to me at Dr. Terry C. or email me at tacullen@ou.edu. Especially if you're working on your master's degree, this would be a great elective, and I would love to have some practicing teachers in the class. So no matter what, computer science and programming skills, computational thinking, team skills, spending time thinking about the role of technology, they are all here to stay, and they're going to be necessary for Oklahoma students to thrive in their future careers, and also important for our state in order for our state to thrive and us to build our economy. No matter what you do for Computer Science Education Week, what I would love to have you do is commit to learning more about computer science and incorporating maybe 3 or 4 lessons in your classroom each term. The first thing I would do is take a deep dive into the new Oklahoma standards, print them out, think about how you could include these topics in your existing lessons. If all teachers in our state at their grade level incorporated just 3 or 4 lessons, we would be providing our students with a real entry point to learning these skills. We would be able to identify if our students are interested in computer science, and then that way then we could help to direct them to additional electives and programs and clubs and different opportunities to help them really develop those new skills and develop their interest in a computer science career. So here's a link to the slides. And now I want to, and before I forget, there's a Facebook group for OK Comp Sci. It's facebook.com/groups OK Comp Sci. We'll post the slides in this video there as well. And my information is there. What I thought I would do is just kind of open it up, invite people if they want to turn on their web cameras, if they have a question, and their microphones, and we can have a short conversation. And am I no longer screen sharing? No, I am still screen sharing, correct?
You still are.
Okay, so I'm going to turn off screen sharing, and I think I'm talking now, right? Am I? Nope.
Yep, you're good.
Okay, and so I'm on the screen. So would anybody like to ask a question or make a suggestion? Would anybody like to share?
You think
there's cooler moment
is the question.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions or any suggestions or things they'd like to share?
So Terry, what do you think about Lego leagues as part of another option with bot ball and uh, first robotics?
Sure, absolutely. Lego and Mindstorms are really good as well. Honestly, I think the most important point, Chris Kalinsky works with me at the University of Oklahoma, and we have all these different robots. I've got all these different robots and all these different ways of teaching programming. And the reason is that my job is to make sure that all of my students who are studying to be teachers know kind of what's out there. But if I was a classroom teacher, what I would do is pick one that I liked. And so if I was interested in getting my students involved in robotics, I would go to the Lego robotics competition website. I'd go to the Bot Ball website. I'd go to First Robotics, and I would look to see whether there's a competition or identify if there's a school nearby that participates. And I would go and talk to the teacher, and I would talk to them about what it is they do and what difference it makes in their classroom. And I think, like, for example, Sherilyn Admire in Mid-Dell District, she's been teaching for 30 years. And every time that I talk to her, I run into her at the Capitol and talk to her about how she's using BotBall. She's using it with students that are struggling in school, that many of them have an IEP. And what she's found is it's helped them to build confidence. And so that's one of the things that makes me really excited about robotics competitions. But it doesn't matter what robotics you're doing, as well as just spending the time with the kids and helping them think about how they can use computer science in order to solve problems is what is the true value of whatever competition they're doing. Great question, Chris. So are there any other questions? Christine, I'm looking here and I'm noticing that several of the people who are currently attending are actually still studying to be teachers. And I wonder if, since you're from the State Department, if you had, like, maybe could help them understand that how computer science is starting to be incorporated and how they could make themselves a really marketable job candidate. Because will computer science make a difference in them getting a job, do you think?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because we're just starting with our new standards for computer science, it's still relatively new. So just your knowledge of the standards themselves and having examples of ways you could incorporate them in whichever classroom you decide to go to, that already puts you, you know, way, way up there in terms of a potential candidate. Knowing at the elementary level that most schools don't have a separate computer science class, or they might have a rotation in their specials or something like that. Knowing those computer science skills and how you can bring them to younger kids and how you can introduce them, that's also key. Middle school, they're starting to get some computer science classes in there. But again, being able to present those kids with a variety of options, no matter what you're teaching, as long as you are presenting it from multiple angles, and if you can incorporate the technology, then you have a leg up, because that is what people are looking for. That's what people want, because for future careers, you're going to be using technology and you're going to be using those skills that computer science can bring you.
Well, so since we don't have any questions right now, what I did is I went back over to the slide, and I'm going to go back over and I'm going to screen share again. And what I've done is I went on this slide and I clicked on this link, ste.ok.gov/documents/2018-2/proposed-OAS-CS. I'm just showing you this is the link that I went to. And what that did is it pulled up our standards, our accepted standards for the state of Oklahoma. And so what I want to show you is I want to show you just how accessible these standards are. I copied and pasted some standards on each of the activities, but I want to show you that, like, these are the standards for grades 3 through 5, and it's only 3 pages long. And the reason I'm telling you this is because I want you to see, like, the overall larger concepts. So we start here looking at computing systems. How do computers work? Then we go and we talk about networks and the internet. How does the internet work? Data analysis. So how do we store data? How do we collect information? How do we make decisions using data? So again, very math-friendly concept. Next, if we go into algorithms and programming, this is what people, when they immediately think of computer science, probably think about. But this is such a small portion of what computer science is. Understanding how to program the computer is one thing, but understanding how data is used and understanding how we communicate with technology and how technology is a part of our everyday life is probably something that all of your students can get behind and fits in very well with other content areas. And then finally, the impacts of computing, thinking about culture, how we interact socially, and how safety, law, and ethics relate together. So what you could do is, if you're thinking, I want to talk about technology a little bit in my lesson, pull up your grade level and then just spend a little bit of time reading through these and saying, where does this fit in? If we're doing a large project, could we be talking about different ways to communicate using technology? Could we also talk about how we're storing data? A lot of times we waste our time and maybe even we're frustrated with how students, oh man, they didn't know where it was saved, they couldn't find it, they didn't have a folder. You know, learning how to manage data, learning how to organize data, like for example here, 4th grade standard, choose different storage locations, physical, shared, or cloud based on the type of file storage requirements available and share requirements. So even in your lesson, having students think about how they're uploading things, how they're sharing it to a shared drive, how they're collaborating with files could be meeting a computer science standard. The difference is between someone just saying, oh, I got to show them where to save it again, or talking about, I want you to think about this as an important educational opportunity where we're talking about where we're saving things. Is it secure or not? Can anybody cheat off of you or not? You know, those sorts of things. And so one of the most important ways that we can help raise up the computer science standards in our state is just to be thoughtful about it and take our opportunities where students are already using technology and then talk about things like data security and saving things and organizing their files and being able to find their files. If we do that in a thoughtful way, we can be supporting computer science education in our state every single day of our classroom day. So any other questions? I think I've got a quiet crowd here.
Yeah.
The internet real, Terry? That was my question I was going to ask.
Is the internet real? Well, we'll have to ask. Who's our person who invented the internet? We'll have to probably ask somebody who invented the internet, right? I will say the one thing that
Sorry,
I really love talking about with internet too, and fitting this in is I have a big collection of technology storybooks, and I've done a video already for the State Department on that. But I have a lot of storybooks that are about famous computer scientists, Grace Hopper, Ada Lovelace, the people who programmed for NASA. Is it Catherine? Gosh, I'm blanking on the name. I make those books a regular part of when we talk about computer science in our classrooms here at the university. But if I was teaching elementary school, I would make sure that those books that talk about programming and about careers in computer science were part of my classroom library. So even if I don't have a lot of technology, that it could be a regular part of our conversation. Christine, is there anything else you'd like to add since we have such a quiet crowd?
Well, I just want to reiterate, I'm here. If there are any questions, whether you're pre-service, whether you're veteran, I am here for you at the State Department. I was a teacher for 10 years prior to coming onto the State Department. So anything that you want to ask me or tell me or share with me, I'd love to hear it. We're really excited about the next steps for computer science. We're still processing what all that is going to be. But this is a great time to be in the state of Oklahoma with these new standards because you are going to be helping control that direction. And you're going to have those choices when it comes to incorporating our standards. So we're starting to blend math and computer science. We're bringing both sets of those standards together. That work is coming along and coming soon. So that's exciting, but we're going to be looking at all subject areas. We're going to be looking at how computer science works with all subject areas and also stands on its own and really helps our future.
That's awesome. So let me leave you just with repeating one note. We're seeing the slide again that has the link to the Facebook group. Is that right, Christine? Is that what you're seeing?
Yep.
So I really want to encourage you, pre-service, in-service, interested parent, if you want to learn more about what's going on with Oklahoma computer science standards, please on the Facebook, I just did it. But on Facebook, please join the group OK Comp Sci. The group is small right now, but we're really working at growing it. Christine and I are both moderators in that group, and what I'm finding is that people who have opportunities for learning about computer science education are posting those opportunities in this group. Also, people are sometimes posting articles of interest about computer science education, both in our state and nationwide. And so if you want to know what opportunities might be available for you, what kind of workshops are offered, there's always a lot of workshops in the summer and from different entities. And so that would be a great place for you to keep an eye on and add to your newsfeed. And so if having heard a little bit more about computer science in Oklahoma has really motivated you, let me encourage you to go right on over to facebook.com, go to groups, OK Comp Sci, and join that group so that you can kind of follow the discussion in our state. So thank you so much.
Just a second, Terry. There's one more question.
Oh, good. You got a question. Great. Good.
So,
okay.
Colton asks, the standards are written to be robust and broad. Do you think that with technology evolving so quickly that computer science standards will have to be reconsidered or rewritten more often than other subjects?
So currently, I think that we're on about a 7-year cycle for most subjects. Is that right? And I think that fundamental ideas about data security and that sort of thing really won't change. In fact, I mean, you think back to the beginning of technology and things like, you know, how does the internet work? Like how a packet is delivered is the same basic technology. Now we're sending a lot more packets because we have videos and the files are bigger. But in general, the way that computer science works, or that like data is transferred on a network, is actually fundamentally still the same from when it was invented in, like, I think it was 1969. That being said, what I foresee is perhaps a growing of the standards. I think what we have there is nice and broad, but I think as new challenges arise, as people find new ways to use technology, and as we're challenged to be more kind online and to be more protective of our data, I have a feeling that there will be additional standards that are added to address the different ways that we're using technology. Christine, what are you thinking about that?
I absolutely agree with you. I think that our standards were purposefully written be more conceptual because technology is changing. We purposely didn't say students will have knowledge of the Google suite or anything like that, because the software is evolving at a faster pace, and there are programs that are used now that probably won't be used 10 years from now. Or we didn't have Chromebooks 10 years ago, and now they're the most popular thing in the world, but 10 years from now, they might be obsolete. So looking at those specific pieces of technology, yes, we're going to have to be revising, we're going to be looking at it, but because our standards are so conceptual and broad, I think those concepts and those approaches to problem solving aren't going to shift quite as much as what we might think.
True. So you're checking the chat. Do we have any other questions in the chat?
I don't see any other questions.
Okay, well then I think then let me leave you with just this one challenge again. Next week is Computer Science Ed Week. It's always the first week in December, the first full week in December. And I want to encourage you to think of at least one activity that you could be doing in your classroom to get students thinking about computer science and then also continue to think about how do you make yourself feel more confident and more ready. And please join our Facebook group so that you can hear about the opportunities that can be offered to you by the State Department and other entities to get you ready to teach computer science and help us to build our state and our economy.
Perfect.
All right, I'm going to stop the recording.
All right, thanks so much.